Okay, welcome everybody. A very good evening to everyone. Welcome to SME Innovation Story number 9. And for this evening, we're going to talk about integrating remote working for sustainable company culture. My name is Thomas Chia, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, for those who are first time joining, SME Innovation Stories is a weekly webinar where we feature case study of digital transformation projects in SMEs. The goal is very simple. The intent is to inspire more SMEs on various digital strategy to transform their business and stay competitive. All right. So if this is something that you are interested in, remember just click on the subscribe button below this video to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, just to set the context a little bit, right? So when I say digital strategy, just to clarify, we usually means more than just e-commerce, social media, and developing apps. All right. So digital strategy to us is more than that. It's actually about integrating digital technologies across every area of your company. So e-commerce, it's more about integrating technologies in every company in your company and how to improve your business operates and how to add value to your customers. Now, for illustration's sake, let me pull off a presentation that I usually share with the customers. Okay. As you can see here, all right, so in this canvas is what we call our digital transformation canvas that we often use it when working with clients. Now, as you can see, there are generally about 10 types of digital strategies that you can use and apply to your business. E-commerce just cover a small area at the right of the canvas, all right, which is related more on how you reach and interact with your customers and stuff like that, all right. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, all right. E-commerce is a good start, but if you're doing the same as whatever that's doing, whoever is doing, or your competitor is doing, then you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to be very successful. Successful innovators usually look across all areas and identify the right innovation opportunities, and then they use a combination of digital strategy as well. Okay. Anyway, we are not going to talk about this for today. This is a lengthy topic, but if you're interested in, all right, like about our digital transformation canvas, how to look into 10 areas of digital transformation strategy, if you're interested in, join our digital transformation workshop, all right? Just type Go Digital at the live chat box here, and then we'll send you more information, all right? Okay, so for today's evening, we're going to have ET call with us to discuss on various development, all right, on new company culture to integrate remote working for the long run. Now, I believe that he will also share with us certain case study that he had prepared on how companies practices working from home, during this MCO period. So let me bring ET online, then we can start the session immediately, all right? All right, so hey ET, welcome to SME Innovation Stories. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Hi, Thomas. Thank you for having me.
All right, so thanks for your time. Thanks. I know it's Friday. Everybody is chilling down and winding down, and thanks for spending time with us. It's going to be a very interesting next 1 hour. All right.
Great. Looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, so just to quickly give a brief introduction, ET is a culture transformation expert who has trained and consulted for more than 15 years. Wow, that's very impressive. And he has actually trained in 10 countries, including Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And his specialty is mainly in helping companies to create a performance-based culture through KPIs, psychometric profile, and talent management. Now, ET, I already seen your profile. You have also worked with several big names in your portfolio, such as like Starbucks, ExxonMobil, AirAsia, Royal Bank of Canada, Top Glove, and things like that. Yep. Maybe you can give a brief introduction. How do you usually work with these clients?
Right. What I do is I help them in terms of the manpower. I help them from the beginning till the end. So at the beginning will be, for example, the recruitment of their talent. So how to interview and how to use profiles to identify the best talent for your team. Then when they come in, I help develop and coach them to be better performers. That's through a variety of things like setting KPIs and setting goals, which is very important now during the MCO period, setting the right KPIs and getting them accountable. So I help companies implement those processes. And then eventually, the really good ones, I help develop them to be leaders for the company, future managers or emerging managers. So I help them identify the best people so that they can promote them to be in leadership positions. So basically, that's what I do to help corporations.
Interesting. So I think HR managers will love you a lot, you see.
Yeah, I help out as much as I can because I'm very passionate about doing this because I've been through the journey myself, and some of it without assistance at all, and some of it with a lot of coaching and help, right? Coaching and training. So that's why I want to give back and help these companies to develop these people along the way.
Very, very good. I mean, because I think this is very important nowadays, especially we are talking about talent wars, and then it's hard to find talents. I think you are on the right track in helping them to gain an advantage. Now, I mean, for today's session, right, I think we are going to talk about something I hope is quite interesting and
Mm.
also timely to a lot of SMEs out there, right? So, as I think a lot of Malaysians know, I mean, more than a month ago, our government actually announced the movement control order. For those audience who are joining us from overseas, I mean, because of the COVID outbreak, so movement control order or MCO we call it, where the government actually mandate all companies will require have their employees to actually work from home, right?
Mm.
So yeah, so I mean, ET. So for the past, I think it's more than 4 weeks now. It's almost like
Yeah.
yeah, more than 4 weeks, right? Yeah.
Correct.
So I'm sure that you have seen your clients or even some of the companies that you work with, like they are trying to coping with like working from home and remote working and things like that, right? So what are the major changes do you see in how the teams and the employees of this company work together during these 4+ weeks?
All right. Let me share with you my first observation. Now, working from home and all of a sudden like this, there's a lot of challenges and a lot of problems that people have mentioned. But I want to highlight some of the good things that has happened as a result of this. I think number one, and very interesting to observe companies, this happened to companies. Somehow it has forced every company to practice working from home, right? Many of the companies would have had the idea, or maybe the staff has suggested to management, but management says no, it won't work. But because of this scenario, we are forced into a circumstance to practice this. So I think that's a good thing, good for the staff and also good for the company. And like it or not, if it wasn't for the virus, none of the companies would be in this situation. So I think that's a good thing to happen, right? My mentor from Singapore used to give this quote. She said, "Always choose to change by choice, not by chance." Right. So I repeat, and if you're listening to this, write this down. If you have always change by choice, not by chance, right? Which means you make an effort and you make a choice to change and grow, right? Somehow, unfortunately, this MCO and this virus has forced us to change by chance. It's beyond our control. We are forced to change, right? So we got to look at the bright side and see how to make the best of it. And I think some companies are struggling, right? But some companies are doing well. They're embracing it, right?
Okay, yeah, I think that's a very good thing. So, if I may repeat it again, so you are saying that try to, I mean, what your mentor says, like change by choice, not
Yeah,
by chance. I think that's a
yeah,
very good way to think about it. Now, I think working from home, to be honest with you, because my background is coming from IT, and
yeah,
I think from us, working from home is nothing really special. I mean, we have been using from working from home and remote and working and things like that, and I think
right,
that also applicable for some other professions as well. Like for example, I know like designers they used to work from home or remote working as well. But
yeah,
I also know that a lot of companies, especially those traditional SMEs, they might not be ready for their staff to work from home, and then this suddenly just changed, right?
yeah.
So yeah, so I'm sure that you mentioned they are sometimes they are caught in surprise and things like that. But what are the common challenges that you often seen? I mean, in the past few weeks when they try to work from home, what are the
Yeah,
challenges?
yeah, you got a very good point there because for some companies like IT companies, call centers, outsourcing companies, they're actually quite used to working from home. And software houses, IT companies, they already have resources from Philippines, from India, from Russia, and they're working remotely. So that's not an issue for them. But in Malaysia, and 95% of Malaysian companies are SMEs, right? Many of them are not in that position, right? Many of them have never tried working from home. So this is a situation where they're forced in. Now, the good thing is this. Maybe in the past, staff has wanted to do this, but management did not want to do. So one of the challenges they must do now is, if I were to give one tip, it was to focus on two things. In this period, a lot of people are focusing on the tech. What platform to use, what computer, how many monitors should I have? Should I use my phone or my laptop? Now that is important, but you must focus on the mindset as well. So the tech is one, and the mindset is very important, right? In reality, if you look at it, the tech might be the easier problem to solve because the mindset is number one. The managers must be ready to embrace working from home, right? Now, if a manager has been in working for 20, 30 years, this is probably a first experience for them, right? So they must be able to embrace this. They must be able. You have to accept that you don't have full control over your staff. You don't even know what your staff is doing. So they must be comfortable with that. For the staff, they have to be comfortable working alone and being accountable for their own work, because nobody's going to monitor them and or even handhold them or check on them. They have to check on themselves and make sure they're accountable. So I find these two, in terms of people and mindset, that's the two big challenge that people face.
Interesting. I mean, I think that is quite true because it's actually companies is people oriented kind of organization, right? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. So I mean, if I'm going to give advice to managers, don't just spend time worrying about the tech. Engage with your people and
Yeah.
discuss with them what's the best way for them to work. And I think it's okay to admit to your team that, look, I'm not familiar with this. In fact, your staff is probably better at this than you. And it's okay to admit because this is new to everyone. It's unprecedented. So it's okay to admit, and this is your chance to work together with your team, right? And find a process that works. So you may be the head, you may be the manager, but listen to your team and see what they can come up with. So I would have a session to discuss with them what's the best way for us to work from now. What are some suggestions you have, right? Or what do you think I should do? So ask your staff this question: what do you think I can do as a manager to support you during this period? I think that's the question every manager should go back and ask their staff. Right?
Okay, so try to engage them and seek for their opinion as well, right? Because
Yeah.
I think what you mentioned is one of the things they need to be more accountable and self-driven and self-directed, something like that, right?
Yeah, I want to share with you a story about a mindset. This is an actual story about a company.
Ah,
I was hired to help a company interview for a F&B salesperson. So this person, he actually sells F&B products. He stays in Klang. The staff stays in Klang. The office used to be in Subang. So every morning, the company has a policy. He has to drive to office in Subang to clock in. Once he clocks in, then he can go and do his sales. Now, a few months ago, the company moved from Subang. The company moved to Rawang. And Rawang is like, 50 miles away, 670 kilometers away. So this poor chap had to drive from Klang every morning, had to drive 50 miles or 70 kilometers to Rawang just to clock in before he can start work.
wow.
So I said, I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. Why doesn't the company allow you to just clock in from home or work? As sales, in sales, you're supposed to be able to work flexible and control your own plan, your sales plan. But I say no, the managers insist on everyone coming in. So I asked him this question, which I thought was very funny. I said, what happens if you're in Klang and you have an appointment in the same city in the morning? Do you still have to drive all the way there to clock in, then come back to where you are in the first place and meet the client? And you know what he said? And I was shocked. He said the company said this. The company told this salesperson, well, don't set appointments in the morning, right? Don't set your sales appointment in the morning. They still want him to drive all the way 50 miles away to clock in, then only do his sales, right? So I thought that was just ridiculous. It didn't make sense. And as a result of this, management not being open to working from home, and this is not even working from home, this is just clocking in from home, right? This staff couldn't take it anymore. He loved his job, he loved the company, but he just couldn't bear the drive. So he was looking out for another job. And that's why he came to this company, this client of mine, to look for another job. So you can see how some of these outdated policies or old management styles, you're pushing away good stuff, right? So this is a chance for you to embrace working from home. And my message to management and managers is that be open and listen to your staff for feedback, because sometimes they have good ideas. Right?
Yeah, I think that's true as well. I mean, especially if there are a generation gap between their staff, right? The new younger ones and the top managers might be the older one who are not used to this kind of paradigm shift, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good. You say, I think it is a good change, and I mean, currently we are changing by chance essentially, but it
Yeah.
could be a good choice. So that's why I also hear some experts arguing that maybe this current situation, I mean, not the outbreak, right, but
Mm.
because people are having a taste of remote working or working from home already, then they could be like considering this as maybe a permanent shift towards working from home.
Yeah.
And I also see some managers saying like, oh, okay, because of working from home, this they have like experienced it already. Although there are bad experience, but there are glimpses of some inspiration as in like, oh, how this might actually turn out to be a
Yeah.
long-term working strategy or even
Yeah.
a culture as part of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that this is more like a change in the working patterns that probably they might stay for long term, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so. I think I would consider this MCO period like almost like a pilot program for working from home.
Okay, pilot. Yeah, I think that's a good way. A pilot
Right.
program for working from home, eh?
Yeah, because the reality is this: we all expect, and we of course we hope, but we do expect things to go back to normal, where all the companies are open and all of us are going
Yeah,
back to office.
yeah.
Social distancing, yes, but we will be able to go back to office and go back to schools and get back to our normal lives, right? So when that happens, my advice to companies is don't forget what has happened during this period. Take the best lessons from here, take the new practices, and make sure you incorporate this into your new culture. Right. So don't waste this period of what's happening now. It's a great opportunity for us. If I don't know, you can't see at the board I wrote at the back there. I was doing a session on adversity, how you turn adversity into advantage. Right? Adversity turn into advantage. So with this adversity, how can we look forward and move forward at the end of this? Right? Otherwise, if after all this struggling and suffering, and you go back to the old practices that you've been doing 30 for the last 30 years, then you haven't learned anything.
Yeah, true. Okay, we have one interesting question from the audience. So let me
Yeah.
pick it up from there. So because we are talking about changing mindset and things like that, so we have someone saying that, hi ET, what is your thought on solution to tunes for managers' expectation of control? Right.
All
So
right.
yeah.
Right.
So how to increase overall productivity and the gap of mindset between employers and employees. So if I may guess, I think our audience they are pretty open. Then
Mm.
maybe they are trying to convince their boss, where their boss can say, cannot lah. Working from home is hard to control and things like that. So there are different expectations between employees and employers, right?
Yeah.
So how do you change the manager expectation of like wanting to control and try to reduce the gap between employee and employer expectation? Yeah,
Okay.
ET.
Okay. Good question. Good question. And to be honest, this is a question that I get all the time, even before MCO. Because the reality is this: the managers want control of their staff, whether they are working from home or they're working beside them. So the problem is not working from home. The problem is the culture that you have in your team and the leadership style that you have. So number one, my advice to managers is you must be able to delegate and allow your staff to be accountable. How do you do that? Now, one of the things that I help companies with is to assist them to set proper KPIs for their department and for the individuals. Now, the trick is this: I don't set it for them. I don't get the managers to set for the staff. I teach the managers to guide the staff to set it for themselves. Why do we do that? Because that creates accountability in the staff. So you must now ideally you would have done this back in office already. So the manager gives the staff the goals and the targets and the KPIs, and the staff is on his or her own effort, they will have to achieve the target. And sometimes the manager doesn't even know what you do. I just want you to achieve the target. And that should be the mindset. So you need to carry that mindset to working from home, because now your staff is not sitting in front of you. You have to assign them clear goals and clear tasks, and then the staff will have to achieve it. And you coach and you monitor, right? You check in with them, but you cannot micromanage them anymore. Okay,
Okay.
that's for managers. But I can tell you now, let me talk to the staff who's listening. All right. In order for your manager to delegate to you, you must prove to them first that you can be accountable. Right. And now, being you're working from home, this is the best chance to be accountable. So you can now that we're working from home, you can take advantage of it and just work 2-3 hours a day and just lap out the rest of the day, just chill the rest of the day. Or you can really put in the effort and prove to your manager that you can work and you can deliver, even though we are not in office. So I would say do that. Prove to your manager by putting in the effort, being proactive, Reaching out to your manager, even though your manager doesn't reach to you, contact your manager. Say, can I sit down and discuss something with you? Right? Prove to them. So when you prove to your manager you can do it, then your manager will be a bit more willing to delegate and let you be run on your own. Okay? So it's both ways actually. Okay.
Okay, very good answer. I hope this answers the question from our audience. So I mean, again, I mean, if you need further answers, feel free just to type in more question on the live chat below, and then we will help you to post it to our speaker. So E.T. Call is our culture transformation expert. He has worked with HR and managers on changing company culture, manage their talents and things like that. So I think he's the best to answer your question for this session. All right, now come back to our today's discussion, right? I mean, we are talking about this shift of working from home might be a permanent shift because some managers already see some value in working from home and they try to change it in a way that they try to incorporate this as part of the culture, right? So I'm sure that you have your own ways or your own methods on for these companies if they want to evolve the working culture to support this change. What are things that they need to do?
Right. Like I said, the good thing is when at the end of the MCO period, we all can go back to our offices. So that's where you can go back and re-establish some of these policies and guidelines, and it slowly incorporate working from home into your daily activities, right? So you can, I would advise companies to start by maybe allowing staff to do work from home once a week or a few times a month, or have an option to choose that if they have a valid reason, right? If their car breaks down, if they have some, the kid falls sick and they got to bring them to the clinic and then they can't leave home, right? But once the kid is at home and they're at home, they're able to work. And they don't want, and staff don't want to waste a day of leave, right? A day's leave if they can work from home. So this is the best chance to change some of your policies to allow this. But of course, like I say, it requires maturity from both sides, the managers and the staff, accountability on both sides. So I would say review some of your policies to allow working from home after this. We talk about setting goals and setting targets. Once you get back, work on your appraisal systems, setting your KPIs, and get that sorted. Because once you set the right KPIs, whether the person is working in office or at home or in another country, they can still do their job, right? And you just track and you monitor them and you support them and you coach them, right? So as managers, one of the tips I can give you is make sure you check in with your staff at least once a week, right? Especially now in MCO period. But the problem is, Thomas, I know I've been in so many companies, and I had this one staff come to me and they complained this, E.T., can I share something with you? They said, my manager has not spoken to me for a whole year. I said, how can that be? Yeah, because the team is so big and the company is so big. So the company the manager will not sit one-on-one with the staff.
Got lah.
Right?
They'll speak with him and got problem lah, right? Usual lah.
When they speak, they got problems, right?
Yeah.
So when there's no problem, they don't speak.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the best way to have no problems? Don't do any work, lor. You don't do any work, you got no problems.
No
so
trouble.
You won't speak for a whole year.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this staff is coming and say, "Oh, it is so frustrating because I don't know what my boss is thinking. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just day to day. I'm getting my paycheck, but they're feeling frustrated because it's they know this is not the way, right? So if this is happening in your office when you're in the same physical location, imagine working from home. It won't work. So you got to get this basic sorted even in your office already, right? So when we go back to office, make sure you fix some of this. Sit down with your staff, set the goals, clarify the goals, align the goals in your whole team, right? One of the things I do is I run profiling sessions, right, for teams, for individuals to understand each other and to understand the manager. Once they understand each other, then the working relationship will become better, right? And that can be done whether you're in the same location or when you're working remotely, right? Understanding each other on a personal level and then how that impacts your work behavior. So these are things that you can do during now and also when you get back.
I think the profiling is very interesting because I think a lot of things that you mentioned just now is actually there needs to be a very good open communication between the team, right? And I think within a team sometimes people are not used to open communication mainly because of how their managers used to do things or act differently, and that also kind of like encourage or discourage them to communicate openly, right? I think that's one of the contribution issue, right? So
Correct,
yeah.
correct. So that determines the culture of your team. You see, if even in the same location you're not willing to communicate openly, it's going to be worse now that you're working from home. So you got to get the basics right.
Yeah.
Right? Culture. You see, culture is not about having everyone happy in the office and always smiling and high-fiving and going for breakfast and lunch together, right? That's nice, but that's not culture, right? A proper working culture, a positive working culture is where people can communicate openly. So a staff can speak to the manager whenever they wish to, and the manager is open to listen, right? That's one. And sometimes in SMEs, I find that hard because a lot of staff don't dare to talk to the managers. I don't dare. I mean, you probably have seen that yourself, Thomas, right?
Yeah.
Staff don't dare to speak to managers. Then sometimes the problem is the managers. The managers, because their persona and their personality, none of the staff wants to go talk to them. So it could be the manager's problem as well, right? So you need to fix some of this. You need to fix some of this.
Okay, just now you mentioned about something about setting KPI as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think setting a KPI as a good way to manage them, not only remotely, I mean even in traditional way, at least you set the right expectation and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of our audience have a very interesting question. He says, "Dear speaker, what's the difference between KPI and OKR?
Okay.
Yeah, which one is better to use in performance evaluation? Maybe just for the interest of everybody, maybe you give a quick primer on KPI and OKR. Then after that, you can address our audience question like which one is better to use for performance evaluation."
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. OKR, KPIs, KRA, these are all terms. My first advice is number one, don't be confused by the terminologies, right? Because every book that you read or every consultant will have their own terms and their own acronym. Okay. Now, KPI stands for key performance indicators, right? OKRs are organizational key results. Okay. If you read, different people will interpret it differently. But the basis is this. KPIs is a way to measure whether you are doing your work or not effectively and whether you are achieving the results. Right. So my advice to companies, you must have a mechanism to set targets, monitor the targets, and measure the targets. Whether you call it KPIs or OKR or whatever, that's okay, right? You must have a way to set targets at the beginning of the year, monitor the targets and KPIs or monitor the OKRs throughout the year, and then evaluate at the year end. Okay. Now, when I say monitor, this is actually the most important because monitor means not just monitor one time, not two times, but regularly throughout the year. Right. So your check-ins are regular throughout the year. And not like when there's a problem, only I check in with my staff. You have to check in regularly to check on their performance, to support them, to talk to them about their career, talk to them about their learning needs. So that would be my advice, right? So regardless of what terminology you use, as long as you have a way to measure, right, that's important. Okay. And let me give you another good quote, and you want to write this down. Okay. I ask people, what are we paid for? What is our salary for? And most people will answer, we are paid for our experience, we are paid for our knowledge, we are paid for our qualifications, we are paid for our time. But in reality, we are only paid for one thing. And this is important. So write this down. We are paid for results, not activities. All right. So I repeat, we are paid for results, not activities. So a lot of people confuse that. A lot of people think that the more activity I do, the more busy I am, the more I should be paid. But that's not how businesses work, right? You are paid by results, paid for results. So KPIs is a way to measure your results. Don't use KPIs to measure activities because that's just the wrong thing to do. Then you become micromanaging, right? Monitoring activities, what? How many calls did you make? What time did you make the call? How many people did you meet? How many people did you email? What time did you come in? What time did you go back? How many meetings did you do? Those are monitoring activities. End of the day, you just monitor one result. What's the sale and what's the revenue or what's the profit? What's the cost? That's the KPI. So you must have the way you set KPIs is you must measure the results, okay, not the activities. So that's a very important point.
Yeah, I think it's in a way that most people call it management by results, right? So for salespeople, I think it's even more critical because I've seen salespeople, they just go out all day, test out here, test out there, but no close sales. Then they looks very busy, but at the end of the day, it's about the results, right? That you say.
It is about the results. It is about the results, right? In theory, if you can achieve results with less activity, that's even better. It's cost effective.
Efficient.
It's efficient. Right?
Yeah. Anyway, I think for any more KPIs, detail or specific related question, well, I mean, our audience, I mean, feel free to ask more. But I think let's come back to our discussion for the day, talking about remote
Yep.
from home, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So talking about remote from home, we have another interesting question from our audience, and
Okay.
it says, "Iti, do you think if working from home, do we follow strictly on the working hours, meaning no communication after working hours, or it can be flexible?" I think this is a very interesting question. I have my own perspective as well, but let's hear from you first.
Okay. From my own perspective, it is impossible to follow the regular 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. No way. Right? I mean, those of you are listening now, it's 10 o'clock, right? It's 10:30 at night. A lot of us are stuck at home. You have kids, you got families, you need to cook, and all kinds of things. Or you're working with different time zones. So if you link back to the quote I said, we are paid and we are measured for our results, not activities. So in other words, we should not be measured by the hours we work or the number of hours we work, right? We should be measured by the results we deliver. Now, whether I deliver that in the morning, in the afternoon, or evening, actually it doesn't matter, right? As long as I deliver the results. So that's the mindset all the staff and managers must have, right? I'm here to deliver results, whether I spend 1 hour on it, or 5 hours, or 50 hours on it. The key thing is I deliver. So that requires a big mindset change. So the quick answer for me is the hours will have to be flexible, and this is where I ask the manager and staff to constantly engage and check in on each other. That's where you have to discuss and find a workable arrangement in terms of hours. So I would urge everyone to be flexible, but you must come up with an agreement between both parties, management and staff.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there because just for laughter, sometimes I tell my staff, we call flexible working hours, right? So it means that you are flexible to come into the office. The boss is flexible to ask you to do your work even at the midnight. The
Yeah, right.
flexi working hours, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think in reality, as a staff, I can understand that I'm okay with that now. If you allow me to come in a bit later, I actually don't mind working later,
Mm.
right? And if you allow me to go home earlier, I'm okay to work extra hours during the evenings or even during weekends to make up for it.
Mm.
I mean, as staff, we generally want to be fair to the company as well, and we should be, right? If the company allows that flexibility, we want to be, again, it's back to self being accountable, right? Right. I will make sure I cover the hours. That's at least the minimum hours required for the job, right? If the company wants that,
Yeah.
but I make sure I deliver, right? And if I need to spend extra hours to deliver the results, I'll do it, right? Don't be so calculative with the company,
Yeah.
because they allow you flexible hours, right?
Yeah.
So it's both ways, yeah.
I think anyway, I mean just to wrap up this flexi hour thing, I think it's not just remote working. I mean besides before even this COVID thing or the working from home thing, right? I mean some companies are already practicing flexi hours, not as in working from home, but means that they can come in late but go back late, but still straight 8 hours in the office and things like that, right? But I think you mentioned a
Yeah.
very good point just now, as in like the employee needs to be able to communicate clearly, like handle expectation, right? For example, if you're not able to do work tonight, then tell your bosses, I can't make it tonight. Let's have a
Right.
chat and see how we can still produce the same result, but based on this constraint, something like that. And
Yes.
yeah,
And that's where communication is so important, right?
yeah,
If you're someone who don't dare to speak to your manager, or your manager is so unfriendly that you don't even want to talk to him or her,
yeah,
then you will not have this conversation,
yeah,
right? So it's going to be, so you got to open up the communication and create a culture where people can communicate
yeah.
and be open with each other.
Yep.
That's important.
Yeah, I think the leaders play an important role to set a good example. I mean, I have seen very great company, like one of the company that very close to my heart. Some of their staff are listening, I think. I mean, when I step into the office, I see a lot of positive vibe, like people are
Right.
really happy working together. When I enter even the elevator, they keep reminding them, right? This is a positive energy zone. Please
Right.
throw away your negative energy and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So they are trying to, I mean, I get it. I mean, some people say that all these are fluffy stuff, right? But then
Right.
I get it. I mean, they try to instill the positivity because it's not easy nowadays, right? And
Yeah.
then the leaders need to set the role example so that the employee can trust that, as in like, often, because if not, I often hear a lot of employees, boss only say one thing, do another thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's a good point. The posters are good, but more important is the leaders must practice it.
Yeah. But
The
again,
leaders must practice
I
it.
see the point of the poster because the bosses see one thing, but then it's just like you need to keep revalidating, right? Revalidating, reaffirmation the employee that, okay, we are trying to set a positive culture here, and then this is what we keep doing, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. You're right. And it has to be a constant effort to remind them. Even though everybody knows we should do this, you still have to remind them. And
Mm.
that's where, as consultants, we help them design engagement programs. So it could be in forms of regular training or short, and now we can do short webinars or short engagement activities throughout the year to remind them about the culture and the team spirit that we want to develop.
Yeah.
Right. You
Mm.
you can't just assume that, okay, just because everybody knows, okay, everything will be fine, and I'll see you next year, because people forget, people get sidetracked, or people get negativity in their lives, and then they need some reminding and refresher. So that's where management must always plan engagements throughout the year, right?
Mm.
And that's some of the things I help companies to do lah, to ensure the culture is not just a one time, but it's throughout the year,
It's a long term thing. It has to be sustainable, right?
sustainable,
Yeah.
right?
Now talking about remote working, I know that a lot of, I mean, it's not about technology, just like you mentioned, right? And I totally agree with it. For us, for me, I always believe that not just working culture, even process automation, even marketing is always process first, then technology later. So in our
Right. Yeah.
context, it's about setting the right culture, setting the right mindset, then technology comes later on how to support that particular culture.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Technology doesn't create a culture.
Yep. But I think talking remote working specifically, right? I think it's still fundamentally enabled by technology. Means that technology needs to support the culture, right? So yeah, yeah. And for companies who decide to, I mean, they see that okay, they try remote working this period of time, they kind of like it. People are talking about different tools and different technologies and different
Yeah.
processes, to make them work better, right? So I'm sure you have working with several clients during this period of time as well. I mean, I know no one is expert in this field yet because everybody is still trying new things, especially new technologies, right? But
Yeah.
to your opinion, right, what are the processes or even tools and technologies or even infrastructure that actually help them to manage and motivate their teams in this kind of settings like working from home?
Yeah, so technology plays a big part, and I come from a similar background as you. I'm a IT person, trained IT person. All right, and my first 6 years of my career was as a software engineer. So I'm very inclined, and I embrace technology a lot in my work. So for companies, I would say just have small improvements, right? If you've been using email in the last few, if you all this while your only digital intervention is emails, then go beyond that by doing video calls or video conferencing, right? Don't have to be so ambitious and implement an SAP system or a ERP system or a complicated CRM system. Don't worry about that. Take it step by step and continue to improve and add on to it, right? And some of the processes, some of the technologies, you can relook at your manual processes and see how you can automate it. So for example, now is a MCO is a perfect time for teams who are sitting at home to review their documents and review their processes and ask yourself, does this really need to be a manual document of 5 pages where people have to fill up? Can we convert that to online, even just Google Forms, right? And it's free, right? And instead of 5 pages, can it be 3 pages? Instead of 3 pages, can it be 1 page? And I've had clients tell me, ET, actually now that I look at it, we don't even need this form because all the data is already in our system. So why are we making this staff fill in this form or making this vendor fill in all this form, right? So this is the perfect time to review your processes and then use technology to help you transform, right? And I think Thomas, you can. That's your domain, right? Digital transformation. What I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts for some of these companies?
Well, my thought is very simple. Again, you mentioned it's the same. I mean, we are aligned, right? So it's always about the processes first, right? So I think this is a good time. I like the way that you coin it. Like this is actually a pilot run for remote working, right? So when they do this pilot run, they will try to do their process as the usual way. Like for example, submitting documents, like doing approval and things like that, like the manual way. Then suddenly they feel that they are stuck somewhere. There are things that they felt that, oh, why there are hurdles and bottlenecks and things like that. And that is where I call it the pain points that we can start identifying already. To us, the process that is always do your process as usual first, but
Mm-hmm.
identify the pain points. Once you identify pain points, then you can look for technologies in a more objective manner. Because nowadays, with a lot of technologies available, some people saying that, oh, this is good, that is good, and things like that, which is better. And to be honest, I always say that there's no better or the best XYZ or the best ABC technology. It all depends on your processes and where are your pain points, right? But
Right.
get your process right first and identify the gaps and identifying. But I think you mentioned quite right. Like for example, there are a lot of free tools nowadays. I think SMEs nowadays are a lot more fortunate. Like you have Google Docs, real-time editing, and even sharing tools. And then some even use Google Docs for brainstorming and amazing. Like for example, think of ideas, right? Because it's real-time collaboration. People want to chip in idea. You don't have a whiteboard, but you use a Google
Right.
Docs to real-time
Yeah.
communicating and chip in idea. Yeah.
Right. Even that itself is a big transformation for some companies, but it's very easy to implement. Right.
Yeah.
Very
And
easy.
yeah, I think this situation forced us to actually think more creatively. But of course, we need to have a mindset. Again, it's all about mindset. If the mindset is like, okay, it's so hard to work remotely, it's so hard, and but they never think like what are the solution, then they will never change, right? They will never able to take advantage of this situation to make it better for them.
Yeah, I give you another example. Is one of the trainings I do is interview training, and in the past, most companies always prefer face-to-face interviews. Now the problem is when you do face-to-face interviews, the poor candidate got to come or take a day off from work, come into your office, wait for half a day for an interview, and as an employer, you can only interview what 4 or 5 a day max, right? Because of the time and the journey and all that. And I would always encourage them, why don't you do phone interviews or video interviews? And guess what the answer is? Oh, no, lah, won't work. Lah. Let's get them in. I want to see their face. Right. But with this happening, this has forced everyone to even do recruitment and do interviews online. And you know what? Once they do it, they find actually it works, right? It actually works. And now I can interview more people in a day. It's easier to arrange time because all we need to do is just set a 1 hour to call in at the same time. And the interview can be conducted. So it's really, the good thing is this is changing the way people are doing work. And hopefully this will continue after the MCO.
I think that's a point for today's discussion because we are not talking about MCO. I mean, MCO, even though we have extended 2 or 3 times, right? But it will end in one way or another, right? But we are talking about post MCO or even the post COVID, right? How this remote working can be integrated as part of the culture for long term or even forever. Maybe not fully remote working, but leverage on remote working for their own advantages, right?
Yeah.
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 So I think now come back to one of the interesting thing. I mean, of course, I mean there are certain companies will say that, yeah, I mean Thomas or even ET, you are saying that remote working is good here and there, but then we have tried out and it doesn't work. And then yeah, I know it seems like it doesn't really work for us actually. But I mean, I know complaining is not the right way, and then some of them they might not even try it yet. Right, but then if they don't, I mean, what is the best thing that the staff can do to make the best out of the current situation?
Yeah, I can understand because the reality is there are some SMEs will find it very hard to work remotely or work from home. For example, those in F&B, those in retail, those in conducting live events. If that's the nature of your business, working from home is almost impossible, right? So, but now you're stuck at home. What are you going to do? So my advice to these people is still make the best of the situation, make positive use of your time. Like how? So for example, what you can do is review all the things that you've been doing in the past and see how you can improve it, right? So for example, we talk about processes, look at your processes. Is there a way you can simplify some of the processes you've been doing all this while, right? If you're working for a company and you can now start exploring new tools that the company can use or new software the company can use, right? If in the past you've been doing things in a manual way, now you've got time at home, right? There's no business, there's nothing you can do. Well, go and find a tool that can help my company automate certain things. This is where as staff you can provide value to your company even though you're working remotely, right? Find ways to help the company, find tools, pick up a new skill, right? Learn a new skill that can help you when you go back to office one day, right? Think of a new product, think of a new idea, right? Do benchmarking, right? Contact other people, look at best practices around the industry, come up with case studies, and use that to improve your own business. Now, maybe you can't do it now, but once everything goes back to normal after MCO, then you can implement those ideas. And that's how you can make use of your time, right? Now when you're at home.
I think that's a very good point. Now, we have another good question from our audience. I think this question will be quite timely. He says, during working from home, right, our staff is actually working hard to achieve or even to fight the target. I think what he meant is to achieve the target, but end up failing achieving the target because of many external factors caused by the MCO. I think that's quite common because in MCO, there are along the supply chain or value chain, people are relying on each other, right? And then
Yeah.
one parties may try to hit their target or achieve their KPI, but they are depending on other parties in the value chain as well, which might hinder them from achieving the target, right? So, what they can do in that case? I mean, because we are talking about setting target. If they fail to achieve because of some external factors, because of MCO, I mean,
Right.
then how do we navigate that?
Yeah, and it's a very valid, you can call it an excuse, but it's a very valid excuse, right? In this scenario, nobody is buying.
Yeah.
So if you're in sales, it's a tough situation to be in, right? So again, the challenge will be if you're in sales and you can't sell, then you can't be just sitting at home and doing nothing. So you have this practice of reflecting and see, okay, what else can I do? And you need to be creative, right? Think of some ideas. As a salesperson, if I can't sell or my customer is not buying, what else can I do to value add to my customer so that when they are able to buy one day, they will think of me? So, for example, some of the sales training we do for companies, we've actually asked them to call back their customers to first ask questions, what challenges are you facing? So don't go and call them and sell, call them to say, how can I help? Right? What can I do? What support do you need from me? And that's a way you can engage with your clients, right? And then when they are ready to buy, when they start having the funds to buy, and they will eventually, you will be first in their mind, right? I see a lot of salespeople now doing webinars to educate their clients, right? If you can't sell, then you might as well educate, value add to them, and be creative in the way you market yourself and market your products over social media, over webinars like this, right? So you got to find creative ways to do it. That would be my advice. Right.
I think in certain ways there are some managers that are trying to balance between like the KPI, commercial driven KPI, and humane, right? Being humane, right? So, for example, they say that I know, like talking about sales KPI, I know you have to hit your sales KPI. I know I need to try to achieve it, right, as a salesperson. But then the thing is, it's so hard. But I still need the salary to feed my family, right? So as a manager, I know that okay, I'm trying to empathize, right? You say my sales staff, okay, he need to feed his family. I know, but for company, we need to hit our sales target as well. Otherwise,
Right.
we'll be in bad shape for this year. So
Right.
how to balance as a manager? How to balance between from the humanity point of view or human point of view, I guess, and the commercial KPI.
Yeah, I think this is tough. The reality is SME owners are struggling. Many SME owners are struggling, and staff also worried about their jobs and worried about their careers, right? Because they know their companies are struggling. So my only thought process is that look, we're all in this together. Whether you're a manager, you're the owner, or you're a staff, we're all in this together. So everybody has to back each other up and help each other up. So as a staff, if you have engage with the management and see ask them what else can I do as a staff, right? What can I do? And how can I support my company further, right? And be a bit more flexible. Don't be so calculative. And I'm saying that to both the managers and the staff. So management has to be a bit more flexible and help out the staff as much as they can. And staff, hopefully, you can also look in what ways you can help back the company. Because nobody asked for this. We are all in this together, right? So hopefully that's where where's the culture is important. You got to work together as a team and overcome this adversity as a team, right? And don't to employees don't have this mindset to say that wow, so it's my company's job to take care of me. I've served them for so long, and how can they treat me this way? Well, the reality is this: the company doesn't owe you anything, right? The company doesn't owe you anything. So we need both sides to work together. So you ask yourself, how can you help the company? And the managers to be fair and say, how can we help the staff in return, right?
I think your point is very valid. That's the reason why I think it's crucial if the company has a very base or core culture that are good or that enforce or instill honest and open communication, right? So there are trust between the managers and their staff instead.
Yeah. Talk and engage with your staff, and then find out the solution that can benefit both sides, lah. Yeah.
Okay, we are almost time's up, but I mean, for audience who have more questions, I mean, or please feel free to type in your question in the live chat. We can still afford to have maybe one or two more questions. For those who have just joined in, welcome to SME Innovation Story number 9. And today we are talking about integrating remote working, not the beyond MCO, so mainly to integrate remote working for sustainable company culture in the long run. Now, Iti, come back to our discussion for today, right? Just to kind of wrap up a bit. Remote working is actually what I know is part of what we call workplace flexibility. There are some companies or even HR are promoting, like so workplace flexibility. You're talking about flexible workplace. Remote working is part of it, and some HR saying that workplace flexibility could be a competitive edge actually to fight against today's global war for talent. I mean, because nowadays, talking about the Gen Y, Gen M, they like flexible workplace, right?
Yeah.
What is your opinion on this one?
Yeah, I agree. If you ask the Gen Y and the new workforce, would you like the option to work from home or to have flexi hours or flexible work environment? I think almost everyone will say yes. But the fact is this, even if you ask the managers who will be in the company for 20, 30 years, would they like the option? They would say yes as well. So everybody wants it. It's just that in the past, they weren't sure how to implement some of these policies, right? So so as a company, if you're able to incorporate what's happening now and incorporate it into your future practices, future policies, it is definitely going to be an advantage. Because when you hire people, this can be your edge. You can tell them we embrace the modern way of management. We empower people, we delegate, and we allow people to work to be accountable for their own work. And we delegate them and we just support them if they have to work remotely or have flexi hours, right? I would say yes, it's definitely an edge and a competitive edge.
I think my take on this is I always inspired by a book called Reboot, and this is a book that written by one of the author. Is a project management cloud company in the States, and it says that why remote working is a good strategy for HR in this in our talent challenges, because it actually solves the talent problem, as in like sourcing for talent, because when we are restrict with a one particular geographical area, right, in KL,
Yep.
the office is KL, and then you don't have this remote working culture in place, and then not matured yet, right? So you're always looking for talent around Klang Valley or KL. But if you manage to weather this MCO, take advantage of what I think what ET you mentioned, like how do you evolve your company culture to make remote working work for you? Then now remote working or flexible working, flexible workplace can be a strategy for your talent acquisition. Means that now you are looking for talent is no longer restrictive to only KL, Klang Valley. It could be Penang, it could be outside Malaysia, like in Singapore, or it could
Yeah.
be Europe as well, right? So
Anywhere in the world, right? I mean, if
yeah,
they're Singapore, what makes the difference compared to if they're in Europe or
yeah,
US,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the
But
good thing is, if you're able to implement this, if you have a good staff who has to resign because they're relocating to another state or migrating to another country, if you implement some of these policies, you won't be losing that good staff because you know they can still work for you even though they are not in the same geographical location, right? So there's an advantage to companies to implement some of this, right? So as companies, you must be able to embrace this and be open to hiring remotely and working remotely, right? That's going to be an edge, and that's going to be the way forward. It's going to be a way forward.
okay, so in a way that I think in a positive term, I think this is like I said, is a pilot run. Remote working is a pilot run for the long term, and it's also an enabler for flexible workplace. And if we believe that flexible workplace is going to be the trend in the coming years, because to attract new talent, might as well we all try to do it and make it work for us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So attracting and hiring new talent is critical. So I just want to mention this because there are now people are telling. So ET, when you hire people, they come in, they will form the culture. So the entry point of setting your culture actually is from the recruitment, who you recruit and how you recruit. So that's very important. A lot of people forget about that because if you recruit the wrong person or a negative person, and then you try to create a culture with these people, it's not going to work. It is not going to work. You got to hire them right from the first place, right? So one of the things I do is I help companies teach them how to hire and how to ask the right questions to interview and assess the candidate's attitude and their culture fit, right? So actually next week I'm doing a webinar. I'm planning to do a webinar on how to conduct online interviews or video interviews during this MCO to assess culture fit, right? And how do you do it online? It is possible, and I'm going to share 3 key strategies. So if I want to seek out to your audience, if that's something that will help you in attracting your future talents, right? Whether you're hiring during this MCO period or you will be hiring again after the MCO, If that's something that's useful for you, please maybe in your chat box just key in the word interview, right? And then we'll contact you and give you the link to the webinar. And there's a free webinar, and I'm going to share with you 3 key tips on how to interview during the MCO period.
I think this will be very invaluable. I think it's not just for this MCO period. I mean, if you're talking about MCO, it's about the right online interviewing tips. I think that is something that you'll be sharing, right? But I think
Yes.
interviewing is always an invaluable tools for hiring managers. So again, you hear what it is here said. So if you guys are interested in the webinar that ET you'll be organizing next week, is it?
Next week, yes.
Okay, so just put in interview. Just type in interview in our live chat box below. All right, just put it live interview, and then we'll get back to you. I will get ET to send you more information so that you can register for it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, well, we are almost time. So, if you guys have any more question, I think we can have one more question at the very least. Now, I mean, this is not the end of the session. I know that we can't cover all in depth. I mean, it's good that you guys get some inspiration. Hopefully, that's the least I'm asking for. But for those who want to reach out to ET directly, ET, what's the best way to reach out to you?
All right. If you have any queries on how to implement some of these working from home policies and cultures, right? My team and I, we can help advise you on that. If you're looking to create the team culture during this MCO period, or even improving the team culture after the MCO period, send me an email. This is my email, right? et@etcore.com.
Can you hold it a bit on top a bit? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that clear enough?
You need
Right.
to hold it back a bit so that it's not so blur. Yeah. Okay, stay there.
All right.
Okay.
So it's ET, England, Thailand, my initials, alias, England, Thailand, KHOR.com. So
Okay.
it's et@etcore.com. So send me an email, or you can contact Thomas, or put down put the comment interview, right? Comment interview in the chat box, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay. So for ladies and gentlemen, I mean for you guys who want to just reach out to ET directly, he already put in his email address already. So et@etcore.com, right? So yeah, so et@etcore.com. So feel free to message him. I have talked to him many times. He loved to share. He loved to share, and he has a lot of experience in managing people. So talking about, I used to talk to him about the gaps between the Gen X and Gen Y and Gen M kind of mindset and things like that. And then
Yeah.
he literally shared with me a lot of different, because I think what ET has is a lot of case studies. It's not just theory, but he has a lot of case study that often I found it very useful, and he liked to share things. So I encourage you guys to actually reach out to him. All right.
Yeah, I think one thing I'm very passionate about is sharing some of these examples and some of my experiences, because I worked around the world in different countries and for different corporations from large to small. So I bring some of their best practices and I fine tune it to suit your company, whether you're an SME or a homegrown family-owned business or a large corporation. I like to fine tune the best practice that suits your company, right? Incorporating all my experiences in the past. So that's very rewarding for me to see how your company has improved and introduced new things to improve the culture.
Okay, it's almost time. So, well, ET, I thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, for this almost 1 hour kind of sharing. I think yeah, your sharing will be beneficial. I see some. I mean, I see some people appreciate and say I value today's sharing. Thanks again. So yeah, for all audience, I thank you for attending this session. So ET, again, I appreciate your time. So I hope you will join us again, and I will see you soon. Okay.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you, Thomas, for having me. And I want to thank all the fellow listeners for staying up from 10 to 11 at night on a Friday night. I mean, that shows your commitment. That shows your dedication to wanting to learn and improve. So I really salute that. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, ET. So I will
All
catch up
right.
with you again. All right.
Okay, I'll see you.
Okay. Bye bye. Okay, so I hope you guys have a very meaningful session with ET. It's almost time, and I don't want to keep you guys any longer. Anyway, for more interesting videos on digital strategies and business innovation, I would like to remind you again to click on the subscribe button just below this YouTube channel. All right, just click on the subscribe button, and then we can send you more videos as we have more live interviews on SME innovation. Until then, stay tuned for our upcoming SME innovation story. It will be held on every Friday, same time, 10 p.m. All right. For that, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good weekend. Stay safe and stay healthy. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye.